Welcome to the CareerJitsu podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling and successful life. So today's episode, we have the incredible Andrew Vaillencourt. Andrew is a energy efficiency and sustainability consultant. This is going to be a great topic for us, and we're really looking forward to the hidden gems that we learn along the way of this one, aren't we, Frank?
Absolutely. We've been talking about this podcast for a long time, and it's finally happening. Andrew, thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
My pleasure.
And let's just start off with, can you tell us a little bit about the job that you do with energy and efficiency? And
Sure. It's a question I get a lot, and it's a question that's a lot of fun to answer because there's really no way to make it interesting. I provide energy auditing, energy consultation services for large commercial, municipal, and institutional customers. Essentially, I assess buildings and businesses for how much energy they're using, and then I develop ways to get it to use less. And that has morphed into a lot of sustainability consulting, where I help them figure out how to comply with a lot of the new regulations and lower their bottom line. So I get to save the world and save money, which is kind of fun.
modern day superhero. And also, you have another profession, which is writing, correct?
Profession is a strong word, but yes, I have monetized my favorite hobby of writing. I've written 15 novels, fiction, mostly science fiction, and 2 nonfiction books, one in my career and one a collection of essays on medieval Scandinavian culture.
Wow. So here we have it. We have somebody who's talking about efficiency and technique, and that's something that's going to translate to jiu-jitsu. Also, I'm really interested to see how your writing is going to translate to jiu-jitsu and how it's helped you on the mats, and jiu-jitsu has helped your writing. So, Jason.
Yeah, I think this is going to be outstanding. We'll get to the writing part. So first, Andrew, to talk a little bit about the energy efficiency, sustainability type work that you do. How is this, how does the journey of that type of work, how is it relating to jujitsu? Like, how can we translate what you basically do in your job? How does it translate into jujitsu?
That's I think my favorite answer to that is the best jujitsu is efficient jujitsu. If you want success on the mat, if you want to have a good role or have a successful training experience, and let's be real, you want to beat the other guy, the more efficient fighter is usually going to be the one who wins, who succeeds, or achieves their goal with that particular exercise. And efficiency isn't what people often think it is. A lot of people, you talk about efficiency, they say, oh, using less energy. When I'm in a role, I don't want to use too much energy. I want to use less energy. When I'm in my building, I want to make sure I'm using less energy, so I buy less energy. And they're actually both completely wrong. Efficiency is mathematically defined as the correct amount of energy. There's a difference between just using less and using the right amount. I can make any building in the world use half as much energy by going in and turning half the things off. However, the building ceases to be useful at that point. I have not made it more efficient, I've broken it. And you see, and one of my pet peeves with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and one of the things we see is sometimes we tend to be too efficient in our Jiu-Jitsu. We stall in a closed guard for too long. We're not winning, but we're not using a lot of energy either. Efficient Jiu-Jitsu is Jiu-Jitsu that uses the correct amount of energy at the right time, which is identical to an efficient building. And it is a perfect synergy there.
I think you could write a book just on that topic right there,
I might.
honestly. And as I'm aging in jujitsu, I think this is the topic that I need to really concentrate on. And you were saying the same thing. As you get a little bit older in jujitsu, some of these efficiency techniques and the strategy and the mindset, really, you need to take advantage of them.
Absolutely. I talk about enrolling all the time. Some advice I've given you: never rush when you're winning. That's being efficient. That's not the right time to use your energy. That's not the right place. That's not the right amount of energy. However, if you're being crushed on top, that might be the correct moment to use a little bit more energy than you even are comfortable using if it gets you to that better position. It's about using the right amount of energy at the right time, and you're efficient.
Outstanding. So, Andrew, can we talk a little bit, transition over to a little bit of understanding of problem solving in in jujitsu and in your work? I imagine being an energy consultant, you have the opportunity to really hone in on solving a lot of problems. And how does that translate into jujitsu as well? Does that help you on the mats with your problem solving on the mats as well?
I don't know how much it's help and how much of it is cross pollination. Um, you want to attack any complex problem, at least in my opinion, I want to attack any complex problem with a measured and, I'm going to use the word, scientific approach. Certainly, in uh, building science, thermodynamics, those are the only approaches you have. I cannot Kimura a building, and many of them I would like to. I cannot simply apply force to my problems in my career and in the goals I have when I'm walking through a building or trying to help a business out. I can't apply force to them. I can only apply methodical, cognitive approaches. Well, turns out my jujitsu's better when I employ methodical, cognitive approaches. I still tend to Kimura my problems on the mats whenever possible, but especially as we age, especially as my jujitsu evolves into something different than it was in my youth, being more measured, being more cognitive is becoming more and more valuable each time one of these 25-year-old wrestlers steps on the mat.
I think it's actually critical for your survival in jiu-jitsu. And I don't, I'm talking from an old man's perspective because I'm in my late 50s, but no matter who you are, there's always going to be somebody on the mat. I don't care if you're a great runner and a great athlete, there's going to be somebody on the mat that's just got more, bigger, stronger, faster, and more aggressive. And if you can't master this, and I love the way you say it, correct amount of energy. And I also like the way you said that you have to know when to use it. It doesn't mean just sitting there at 75 hertz or whatever. It means you have to spike up when the time is right. If you can't do that in jiu-jitsu, you cannot survive. And I think everybody needs to learn that. The other thing I thought that was interesting when you used the word cross pollination, because that really is what we're talking about with career jitsu, right?
Mm.
Things from your elements and learning experiences from your job that help you on the mats and vice versa. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it, cross pollination as a writer. That's great. I want to switch gears for just one quick second and ask you about the F word, failure. And that I don't know how much of that, you're a very smart guy, and I'm sure you don't have a lot of failure when you're trying to Kimura your buildings. But how has jujitsu helped you frame, reframe, deal with failure?
Well, first of all, I love that we can sit here and you can look at me and think, oh, Andy must not have to deal with much failure. That means the facade is working. That means I
He's a
have
humble
fooled
guy.
you
He's just a
all.
humble guy.
I can tell you with not a shred of irony or sarcasm that failure is my ever present companion. He sits on my shoulder all day. He goes to bed with me at night. That is no joke, no irony at all to that. To give you some perspective, COVID nearly wiped me out, nearly wiped my entire business out. My job is to go into buildings and save them energy. For 2 years, there was no one in any of the buildings and they weren't using any energy. My phone stopped ringing. I promise you, failure was there. Failure was on the horizon. And that is where jujitsu really, really did cross pollinate into my professional life. In that, what is success in jiu-jitsu? Unless you're a prodigy, unless you're BJ Penn, success in Brazilian jiu-jitsu for most of us is showing up, getting beaten,
Mm.
crawling home, licking your wounds, getting up and doing it again the next day. And you do that over and over and over and over and over again until a few years go by and you're suddenly not that bad at Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Suddenly you find success. Mark Cuban said that you can show up, fail 1,000 times, Work your butt off. Do everything right. Make all the mistakes. 10, 12 years later, you too can be an overnight success.
I like that quote.
Yep.
Wow.
That is, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I have never in my life met anyone who showed up to their first class, beat everyone easily, and went home. You are going to fail when you take up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You are going to get choked. You are going to get slammed. You're going to have your limbs twisted by a 58-year-old high school teacher. Even if you're the biggest and baddest guy and wherever you hang out, that first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, you're going to learn things about yourself you don't like. You're going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. You're going to fail the entire, I say in the class all the time, the first year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is learning to die slower, die less often in a roll. So career-wise, real success, success that is not handed to you or success that is not somehow bequeathed to you by the whims of fortune, usually comes from showing up, screwing up, learning from it, and trying again over and over and over again. And I have achieved a measure of success. I enjoy that part. I enjoy my success when I have it, but there has been an awful lot of beatdowns along the way.
Right. Right. Hey, everybody, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Everybody's favorite section, Tap In Time, where we actually tap into your thoughts, your feelings, and your suggestions. So, you've heard a little bit about what Andrew has to say about energy, efficiency, and sustainability. Our question is to our listeners, are there some of you out there that work in either that field or really any field where you're carefully managing energy or resources? Do you see some parallels to what Andrew's talking about? If you do, drop some comments. And also, if you see some things from a different angle, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. We'll give you some props. We look forward to it. Thanks for joining us in Tap In Time.
Yeah, so something we didn't mention to our listeners, is that Andrew is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So he's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 years. So he has definitely experienced a lot of ups and downs and failures in both in jiu-jitsu as well.
Still taking my lumps.
Yeah.
Still taking.
Yeah, and sustainability, is a really big part of what you do at work and also what you do on the mats as well, because you've had your share of injuries too. And
Oh, I'm a
that's
collection. Yeah.
so you've definitely learned about sustainability of your body for
Yes.
sure.
I mean, I love that you brought that up too, because I think, and for the listeners, I suffered a fairly, I don't want to say severe, but a fairly significant spinal cord injury that caused me paralysis of my left tricep. And the paralysis is permanent. I've recovered some of it, but it's going to be partially paralyzed forever. And it has fundamentally altered how I train, the frequency, the intensity, and ironically, the efficiency of my training and rolling has all had to get better. And to be sustainable, in my business, in my career, sustainability refers to an enterprise's ability to maintain itself with a limited amount of extra resource, a limited amount of waste, on and on. And that's what jujitsu after 45 is. How long can I sustain this with a minimum amount of damage, a minimum amount of excess resources it's consuming from what is a dwindling resource? I'm in the back nine, guys. It's, if I want to get the most out of jujitsu, I have to train in a way that is sustainable. And you two have probably noticed it's fewer brawls with the youngsters, which used to be one of my favorite things in the world to do.
Right.
Um, Curation of my roles. I actually give myself rules. I allow myself 4 heavy rolls a week, 4 wars, 4 hammer and
Interesting.
tongs a week. That's it. And the problem I have with that, of course, I go through 4, I have a good time, I want a 5th.
Yeah.
But I've learned I'm not getting anything out of that 5th one. It's just more risk.
That is very smart to have a ratio. I never even thought about
Give yourself a
you
rule.
actually have a plan and a ratio that's healthy for you, which you could modify as needed.
If 4 is working and I'm feeling good after 4, maybe we'll go up to 5. But right now, 4 seems about right. Those hammer and tongs, Jose, Vlad, monster rolls that I love. I used to love them so much. Win or lose, I used to love a good, heavy brawl on the mats. Now 4 a week.
And you could just I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say how insightful that is for our listeners and for also anybody who trains in jujitsu. It's very insightful because we tend to focus so much on skill and how good people are at their jujitsu. Like how you can hit a submission from anywhere. You know, it's put them on a pedestal because they can hit submissions from anywhere. You know, um, so we talk about skill a lot, but we don't talk enough about this, about sustainability and the fact that you're not going to always be, um, a
Right.
25-year-old champion. You know, you're going to have to,
It's not about
uh,
the flying
you're
arm
gonna,
bar.
Yeah.
Right.
it's inevitable that we age,
Yes.
and our bodies eventually do not work the way that they did when we were
Only
young.
undefeated fighter is Father Time.
Yeah,
Wow. You got a lot of good quotes.
I love it.
You got a lot
It
of
has to
good
have been his
quotes.
books, Frank.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna have to read one of your books.
The Scandinavian folklore. The only person to ever defeat Thor in a wrestling match was a giantess called Ellie. Ellie's an old Scandinavian word for old age.
Oh,
Oh, I like that.
interesting.
Wow,
Interesting.
deep philosophy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a little off script here. For our listeners, Andrew teaches some of our fundamentals classes, and those are some of my favorite classes. One of the things you bring to the mats that I absolutely love makes the class go so fast is your sense of humor is hilarious, and it's sometimes pointed, but sometimes most of the time it's self-deprecating and never ever against anybody else in the class. But your humor keeps that class rolling so nice. And that is that something that you got from your writing that you apply to the mats, or is that just your personality?
I got most of that from one of the greatest salespeople who ever lived. One of the greatest talkers I've ever known was my grandfather. He founded and grew an electrical contracting company in Connecticut to a large multi-million-dollar empire, which he then sold and retired off into the sunset, a wealthy man. But he had to be one of the greatest talkers you had ever seen. Anything, he could make a joke out of anything. He could talk your ear off, and he would hold court wherever he went in storytelling and joke telling, and he made everyone in the room feel like the conversation was about them.
Hmm.
And you watch that and you master, and then you realize that's how he got all his sales. That's how he built his business. Is you always wanted to talk to Harold. Everyone wanted to talk to Harold because he was funny and he was self-deprecating, and he was never trying to get over on you. And now I do a lot of training. I do a lot of speaking for a lot of the organizations within my industry, um, and I realize that the material I teach is often very dry. How much thermodynamics can you listen to before your eyes glaze over at a
It's a
conference?
hard thing to heat up.
Yeah. Oh.
I say I don't have that talent,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah. Oh my
But
goodness.
maybe if you mix in a little bit of jujitsu principles in there, maybe that will spark the interest more. You know?
Mostly I introduce stand-up comedy. Yeah. So no, I you got to keep it funny. You got to keep it moving. And why not, man? You're only here for a short time. Might as well laugh.
Makes for a nice environment to
Yeah.
learn jujitsu. Definitely.
Okay. Well, Frank, the only thing that I really want to get off to our listeners, anything else that I wanted to really talk about was how we can connect these. You know, I want to finish up with our listeners really understanding about energy efficiency, sustainability, and how they connect physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, even socially. You know, I think Andrew touched upon being an educator. So as a consultant, he has to speak, he has to educate people. And on the mats, he's also a coach. So he also has to translate all of his knowledge to his students on the mats and translate his knowledge to, potential clients as
Yeah,
well.
and other
So
professionals.
I really
Right.
like that social part of it too. So, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of takeaways that I got from this. I absolutely love your idea of creating a ratio for your everything you do is measured.
Yes.
And I
I
think
have a
that
spreadsheet for everything.
and I think that's one of the reasons you're so good on the mats, honestly. I think the way you think, we can all learn something from that. And then I also think even that that golden nugget that I'm really taking is that ratio. I love that. You can apply that to your workload.
Hmm.
You can apply that to your life work balance.
There's a right amount of energy for everything.
That is the huge takeaway
Yes.
for me that I got from
Whether it be
this.
your relationships, your career, your chores, your job, there's a right amount of energy. And all you got to do is ask yourself, is this the right amount of energy for this? Do I feel like there's too much energy? Am I tired too early? If you're tired of something before it's done or before you've managed it, then you're probably giving it the wrong amount of energy.
Andrew, can you explain nap guard?
Ah,
You talk about nap guard. I'm sorry, but I can't let this interview get away without talking about nap guard. You talk about nap guard often. What is nap guard, and is that
my
energy efficiency?
my 9 DVD instructional on NapGuard will be out shortly. Do not worry, it's going to be $39.99 per lesson.
Discount for our listeners.
What is NapGuard? NapGuard is essentially putting someone in your closed guard, breaking their posture, and waiting until they make a mistake or you've had a nice little nap. It is the encapsulation of my efficient jiu-jitsu in that you need to wait until it is the right moment to use your energy. And while the other guy's working, you're napping. I see you talk about a ratio. You're going to laugh. I don't have a spreadsheet for this, but I know in a 5-minute roll, I have 1 minute of maximal effort in me. The other 4 minutes is nap guard.
I like that. I like
And
that.
now I can use that minute all at once, or I can use it in 15-second bursts.
And if you've been stuck in Andrew's nap guard, it's not easy to get out of
No,
the nap guard.
you're not.
You pretty much want to take.
He's napping while you're trying to get out. Is basically
Yeah.
what's happening.
And as a
He's
heavyweight,
yawning. He's yawning.
Yes.
as a heavyweight, that does apply to side control as well.
Yeah, your side control is unreal.
I am.
I don't
napping.
want to be there for sure. Great. I think we've had a lot of takeaways. We really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with our listeners. And we look forward to implementing some of your excellent ideas and the golden nuggets, your wisdoms, your quotes. Wonderful stuff. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you both for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
All right.
Catch you next time.
Well, there you have it. As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful connections we've explored between the art of Jiu-Jitsu and your career. In your workplace and in Jiu-Jitsu, you learn to adapt and navigate challenges. So remember that persistence and the courage to embrace the lessons that you learn are the keys to your growth both on the mat and in your career.